Hey everyone, my name is Mike Vaughn. Welcome to GVN Interviews. Today, I have the extreme pleasure of talking to Billy Flanigan, and we're going to talk about his new documentary that he's featured in called Billy Flanigan, The Happiest Man on Earth. So, thank you so much for joining me.
Hey, thanks for having me.
Yeah, absolutely. Jumping right in, first of all, I really wanted to say how much I appreciated your hearing your story, and as a queer person myself, it was kind of amazing because I think stories like that are so vital, and they're so relevant always, it seems like. So first of all, like I said, thank you for that. It means a lot.
Thank you. It was difficult to tell the story because I didn't talk about it a whole lot. It just happened, and there was a family breakup, and I was very private about it. So when I was approached and they started asking questions about my life and stuff, because the documentary was originally supposed to be a short about my Flanograms, the biking that I did. And after talking to me, and I was very open with them and let them know, they just came back and decided to do a feature length and said, check with your family to make sure they're okay with it because it'll be out there. And so I asked all of them. My ex was kind of back and forth going, oh gosh, I'm not sure I'm happy with this. And I think Cullen had chatted with her as well. And then she got on board. So everybody's seeing it for the first time the other night. It was one of those, okay, let's squeeze each other and hold each other's hands. And my daughter's sobbing, and my boys are, teary. They're concerned about their mom. She was shaking, but we all got through it, and
Yes.
it was great. Colin did an amazing job telling my story.
Yeah, and now that I think that kind of answered my first question, but I guess it must have been just incredibly difficult just to be like that raw and candid, with Colin about your story.
I did an awful lot of crying. I said, I have no idea how you are calling this the happiest man on earth because all I do is sobbing. Because like you said, it's very raw, and especially if you don't talk about it a whole lot, as soon as you start talking about it, you just get very emotional because there's so many people that were impacted with the whole thing. It wasn't just me. It was, my ex, my kids, my grandkids. The person I was with was married with, and he had kids. So it just kind of trickled. There was a lot of people that got hurt, and that's very hard to live with, knowing you've hurt so many.
Um, yeah, and I you touched upon this a little bit, but what was that like just to watch it and sort of experience that with your family?
Uh, I would say two things. It was very difficult because I was concerned about what their reactions would be. And then it was very cleansing because there were things that I'm going to start getting emotional. There were things that they heard for the first time that they didn't know about me. And after, they were very supportive, and they just said it was great. We learned so much about you that we didn't know, and we understand now. Because once it happened, like I said, we never talked about it. It was what it was, and there was no conversation. I did have separate conversations with each one of them, telling them about coming out, that this is what I'm going to do. I met somebody, and I felt these feelings always, but I hid them and I tried to avoid them. And because of my religious beliefs and my upbringing, I just erased them from my mind. And then when I finally met your mom, I fell in love with her, and everything was great. And until it wasn't.
Yeah, and again, I'm gonna start going now too. It was again, I know it must have been incredibly difficult. I don't know if I could be that vulnerable, but I think it's again, it's such a beautiful story, and it's one that, like I said earlier, it's just so vital to hear and to have out there. So again, that's I just think that's so amazing. Now, on a little bit of a lighter note, your peers playfully pointed out that you like to be center stage. What did you think about that, and what would your rebuttal to that be?
There is no rebuttal. If you can see these posters behind me, I have written 3 birthday shows. My 60th got canceled because of COVID, but I joke about it all the time because I was usually the tallest in the cast. So if a show was choreographed, because I was so much taller, they'd always say, "All right, Bill, you go on center," and then so and so, and it became such a joke that it's where I always was, so that if I was ever off center, I'd claim to have a nosebleed. I'm like, wait a minute, I'm on stage left and my nose is bleeding. I need to get my center. So I have these shows. My 50th birthday show is called Billy Flanigan 50 Years on Center. And because I was the 5th of 6 children, if you look at number 5 in a dice, I made myself the whole. So I'm like, even that's on center. All of our pictures. So it became this joke that I lived with always, for a very long time. And, when I ever wasn't on center, that was another joke there. So my next show is 55 Stand Alive on center. So everything is just always on center. And nice. So it is a very funny joke. And, I enjoy the jabs. I enjoy the roasting. I love that.
Yeah, because certainly it comes from a place of endearment, and these your colleagues certainly hold you in the highest esteem. So that's pretty amazing. Now, in the documentary, they talk a lot about COVID, and of course how that really like changed the world, and just kind of put everybody in a little bit of a tailspin. But have you seen like things going back a little bit to relative normality now?
Yes, everything basically at Disney now, performing wise, is back to normal. I would say a lot of the shows that were brought back early on that had COVID choreography or COVID spacing has gone back to what it was. The Beauty and the Beast show, they were trying to dance as couples, but 6 feet apart. And things, Belle and the Beast never could get close together. So there were certain things that you would watch. Yes, it was a show, but it was a little bit awkward, especially if you had seen the show before. If you've never seen it, you may not know the difference. But everything has pretty much gone back where we are kind of right on top. We're partner dancing. We are getting close to each other on stage. And it feels so good to be back to normal.
Nice.
And seeing audiences faces smile. I got to go back to work 6 months into the lockdown happening, and I learned a show called Frozen for the First Time in Forever Sing Along Celebration. And I was one of 5 people in the show, but the stage is so big that they were able to bring this back and socially distant all of us. And they went through very strict means about how we would cross on stage, just always making sure that we were distant. We did not have to wear masks on stage, but the audience did. The very first time that they were able to take their mask off and that I saw faces, because I hadn't done the show prior, it was like a whole new world for me. They were laughing so much more, they were enjoying so much, they were singing so much more. It was fantastic. I got in trouble because my show went a little long because I was just so excited that they were enjoying it so much more. But
yeah, and I think that brings up a really interesting point where when you were saying about that, they were enjoying it more, they were more jovial, because I think if we're going to take something good away from this experience, it would be to not take those things lightly or for granted, because we unfortunately can have things like this where it limits how we can interact with each other, and we are social creatures. So
right. And that's kind of why I started my whole Flanigram adventure, is because I am a social creature. I'm used to being around people all the time and being alone. And I'm in my house. I was with my daughter. She's a type 1 diabetic, so she didn't ever go out, and she pretty much stayed in her room. I would go out biking just to get outside, but then after 2 weeks, I'm like, I have got to talk to people. And that's when I started doing my knocking on the door, backing up, and being Billy on center and doing a little song and dance for people. And they loved it because it brought a smile to their face. They got to see somebody catch up and have something to post. And then other people would look at their posts and look forward to the day that hopefully I would go to their house. And that made me feel great too, because I knew I was making a difference. And I never set out to have any of all of this happen. It just organically happened because of the love of my friends and the fact that they made it go viral because of all their posts.
Yeah, and that's, I mean, it's incredibly amazing and inspiring that, even in the darkest of times, as you say, it gives somebody hope. It gives them something to look forward to. And I'm sure that kind of, nourishes, what you love to do as well. So I think that that's such a cool thing to do.
It would be funny because I would find an area and find as many people as I could that lived in that one area. So there was one time I biked 42 miles on the other side of Disney to go see some people. And then when I got home, it was like an 84-mile round trip ride that I had gone on. And then, like 2 people posted, "You were right near my house and you didn't stop by." And I'm like, I didn't know where you lived. And then I'm thinking, I got to go back those 42 miles to go see those 2 people because I feel horrible that I missed them. So I did, and just anyone know anyone else that lives nearby? And so I started asking that, especially when I drove by, do you know anyone else who lives nearby, so I don't miss them? Because it was always a surprise. No one ever knew when I was coming. That was the best part for me, is the surprise on their face. And that was so much fun.
And I love the story in the documentary of you like biking up this like obscene hill to get to one of your
That was in Texas. So I had driven to Texas, and then I always park far away, so I have an impressive amount of miles to sing at the end of my song. I would always say, I biked however many miles for one of your smiles. And then I'd say their name. So I never wanted to do, I biked a half a mile. That's not impressive. So at least had to be 10 miles away. So I parked far away. I biked, and then I'm looking at this hill going, oh my gosh, he's up this hill. It was, and I wouldn't get off my bike. I just was huffing and puffing about. I couldn't barely sing. I'm like, it's your, yeah. And he videotaped the whole thing. I was so out of breath, but it was brilliant. They were so surprised and so happy.
Yeah, and well, I mean, as you say, it was filmed. It is in the documentary, and I think probably half the people probably couldn't do nearly as good a job under that sort of so I'm kind of curious, you've been in this business for a long time now. What would you say is like the most surreal or kind of strange moment in your career where you kind of take a step back and think, wow, this is like really an odd or interesting experience? Have you ever had something like that?
Yeah, I would have to say the most surreal thing that happened is when I was doing the Hoop-de-Doo review. Princess Di and Prince Harry and Prince William came to the show.
Wow.
And they tell us to stay away from, those people that come in because they don't want to be bothered and all that. And I think it's their people that are telling the Disney people, don't get near them. But when you look on the kids' faces, and they're just kids, yes, they're princes, but they're kids. And they see us talking to other kids, and they're like, why isn't everybody coming over to me? So I broke all the rules, and I went over and I chatted with them, and we ended up picking Prince William to be a volunteer in the show, which was great. And then after the show, Princess Di specifically came up to me and held my hand and said, thank you so much for treating us like normal people. And to me, that one moment, I'll never forget it. It was like you said, it was so surreal. Like, this is Princess Di holding my hand and telling me thank you, because I just did what I do every day to every other kid, but her kids never get to feel quote unquote normal, you know? So that was such a surreal moment. It was amazing.
Yeah, that is amazing. That story gives me chills. That's so great. It's so nice when, people of that, status can and are just so humble and have such an open heart and
She was so gracious. And let me tell you, when I had heard, I will never forget where I was the moment when I heard that she had passed. And I was driving to an audition in Jacksonville, and I could tell you the mile marker, the rest area that I was passing when I heard that, because I was just so shocked. I had to pull over for a second because I felt like I knew her. I mean, I didn't, but I met her, and so it just really affected me to that moment where like I will never forget this moment.
yeah, and it's kind of nice to know that in a small way you brought some joy to her and of course many other people. That's got to be so rewarding.
It really is. There's like I have 40 years worth of stories. I just did a story because I had a piece of property that was stolen, and a newscaster here at Channel 6 here in Orlando helps me get it back. You know, one of those reporters, and he said, my family. I went to Disney when I was 8 years old, and I know we have videos. So I'm going to find them. And he took a picture of two of the shows that they videotaped, and he said, "Are either of these you?" And they both were, because I did 7 shows. Like, they're both me. And he
Wow.
said, "Oh my gosh, that's so crazy." I loved that. So, he said, imagine how many videotapes you're on, or how many photo albums you're in, and you don't even know it. So you just start thinking, okay, 40 years times this many shows times it's incredible.
That is kind of wild to think about. I never really thought about it from that sort of angle, but yeah, that's amazing because I mean you are quite literally a part of somebody's memories, these beautiful times that they've had.
Right. Yeah, we
Um,
just celebrated 40 years at Epcot, and I was a part of the opening ceremony. I was one of the 12 dancers that were performing right in front of Spaceship Earth, the featured dancers right there. So that was another surreal moment 40 years later, to think I'm still here, the only one out of the 12 that were in that show. I'm still performing, I'm still here, and now Epcot's 40, and it feels like it was yesterday that we did that. It just, time has gone by so fast.
and I think maybe it's probably safe to say that you're not going to be retiring anytime soon. You're going to be up there
I
for a
hope not.
while.
With Disney, you are on a 1 year contract.
Hmm.
I have been fortunate enough to have 41. I thought I'd stay for a year and then go do my Broadway thing or try to be on TV or movies, whatever. But I have had 41 consecutive contracts. And every year you have to either be reconsidered. In the beginning, we had to re-audition for roles, but then that went away. And now you're just reevaluated and reconsidered. So I have been fortunate enough to have 41 contracts together. So I'm hoping that I don't have to retire soon. That's kind of not up to me. It is up to me as long as I, keep up and perform well. I'm competing against kids that are 20 years old, and I'm 62. So I bike avidly. I go to the gym every day. I stay in shape so that there'll be no excuse that, he's lazy on stage. And I don't ever want to be that person. So I hope that when it's time to leave, it'll be my choice and not theirs.
Yeah. Um, and I'm sure that you are such a icon and sort of a mainstay there that I can't see that ever happening, so
From your mouth. I hope so.
well, I'm putting out the good vibes, I'm putting
I
it out in the universe.
appreciate it. I said, think of me in May when it comes time to sign 42.
So lastly, just to wrap things up, what would you like audiences to take away from your story?
One of the biggest things I would love for people to take away is, first of all, you can overcome any adversity that comes into your life. I mean, I've had a lot. I've had to overcome all the bullying, overcome breaking up a family and trying to, keep it intact. But mostly that the smallest act of kindness can go such a long way. I mean, I did something as simple as, I'm going to get emotional again, sorry. I did something as simple as getting on my bike and knocking on someone's door. And it made such a difference to so many people. And I thought, it's so silly. I'm just biking to your house and singing a little song. But to them, it was huge. And especially in a time like COVID, when people were alone and lost and didn't have a stage to go on, or, to think that somebody was looking forward to me ringing their doorbell. It was just a small act of kindness that turned into be a huge thing. And I hope that people say there are no small acts of kindness. Anything, a kind word, a hug, if you see somebody that needs it. I hope people get that out of it, that just think out of the box and just be kind.
That's great. That's I mean, that really hits me. That's amazing. And gosh, I feel very privileged to be able to talk to you, and just to that you have your story out there, and it's such a beautiful one, and I think it's one that will inspire a lot of people. It certainly has inspired me to, it's funny, my review that I'm writing, it's radical acts of kindness that I think we all need to kind of to do those things.
Right.
So.
And as bullied as I was in school and all, I don't hold any negativity toward those people, because it helped me grow to be who I am today. At the time it was horrible. I never want anybody to live through any of that. But if you have the strength to overcome it, and if you have, I had the support of my French teacher, who saw it happening and would convince me that they're jealous, or convince me that, don't listen to them, you follow your dreams. And she was there every day. Otherwise, I'm sure I would not have been here. She was such a driving force of helping me through those times. But looking back on it now, it really gave me strength.
Yeah. Yeah, that I know you said that in the documentary, and it just was so profound to me, because to be able to like take that pain and then just transform it into something positive and beautiful, and not let it weigh you down is just incredible. I don't even have words. It's amazing. Gosh, this has been such a pleasure. Thank you so much for talking to me and sharing your story. And I hope that I hope you can see my review. I'm sure if I send it along, they can pass it over to you. But
I hope so. Thank you.
Yeah, but
I'm glad you enjoyed the movie, especially. You wonder if people that don't know you are going to enjoy it. I know the people that the audience the other night loved it, and just to hear the reactions, the laughing and the crying and all, it was so nice. So it's nice to hear from somebody who doesn't know me.
Yeah.
So thank you.
Oh yeah, absolutely. As I say again, it's very touching. It really is a huge inspiration, and it's just been such a pleasure to get to talk to you. And just wanted to thank you again.
Thank you. I really appreciate it.
Yeah, thank you. All right. So I will let you go, but again, thank you so much.
All right. Nice to meet you, Mike.
Thanks.